plus entrance, everybody.
It might be the funniest joke in Capes, which has a lot of pretty good superhero jokes, that not one of your 8 playable characters actually wears a cape. This clever and challenging turn-based tactical game does wear its heart on its sleeve though, and a clear love of the comics that inspired it comes across as it makes its underdog vigilante squad feel powerful with creative combo mechanics. It's a style of battle that gives you almost all the information, and lets you execute a surefire plan in a way that reminds me more of Into the Breach than it does XCOM. Every level in this meaty campaign is a tactical puzzle that tells you almost everything that's going to happen next turn up front. Winning is all about countering the enemy's moves before they can damage you, either by taking them down, disarming them, or moving them right where you want them. Only a handful of abilities have randomized effects, and there's no chance to miss. Plus, you can see any of the enemy abilities and a timeline of who will get to move next. In short, you have all the information you need to succeed. You just have to figure out how to use it. I do wish it went a little bit further and told us specifically which target an enemy plans to attack, and with what, to take the last of the guesswork out of figuring out how best to thwart them. But once you understand that they'll pretty much always go after the closest target, it's rare that you'll be surprised by how a turn plays out if you've taken the time to read the room. Sometimes that can take a minute when there are literally 25 characters on the turn order list, and you have to go through each one every turn to make certain your almost dead character isn't in the line of fire. Capes' tongue-in-cheek story grew on me fairly quickly, and when I heard that Morgan Jaffet, a writer who had worked on the excellent Freedom Force games, was involved, it made perfect sense. Sure, we've seen about 300 off-brand versions of the iconic Marvel and DC heroes at this point. Everything from The Boys to Invincible and Watchmen has their own set of characters inspired by the classics. But it's fun to say I understood that reference as Capes rolls out its parade of heroes whose powers pay homage to the likes of Nightcrawler, Colossus, Storm, Quicksilver, Professor X, the Hulk, Human Torch, and, I don't know, somebody who punches a lot? I wouldn't say any of them are terrifically memorable, but they hold their own well enough. Only Ignis gets annoying to listen to at times.
Shucks, gang, did you come here to save me?
Wait, are you streaming right now?
The triumvirate of supervillains who rule over King City are entertaining megalomaniacs, and they come with creative boss fight mechanics.
This was all a clever trap, which I have now sprung.
It wasn't clever. You gave us an address and said you were going to kill us at it.
The Jokerish Wildstar can mess with your heroes' heads and make them miss their first attack on him.
No.
While anti-Tony Stark Primax is completely invulnerable and has to be avoided and worked around as you achieve other objectives. These boss battles, and a strong variety of enemies and mini-bosses with tons of different abilities, keep fights interesting and diverse over what turns out to be a pretty lengthy campaign. I extended my time with it by replaying some missions to perfect them, and there were a couple of very tough ones that took me a lot of tries just to squeak through, but it was around 40 hours before I saw the end. Plenty of amusingly cheesy superhero humor is thrown around, but the story also often takes some dark turns. There are plenty of straight-up murders, and blood is splashed in the streets as the villains hunt down supers and slaughter anyone in their way. There's a fair amount of debate over whether heroes should kill.
Saving people is the point. Killing people isn't.
Even though it sure looks like this guy's dead. But the way it ends seems to hand-wave a lot of that moral ambiguity away.
Why do you bring these people to our door?
Of course, as excuses to have superheroes beat up bad guys go, this ain't bad. That said, it's very strange that while most of the story is delivered between missions with a 2D animated comic book style where the characters' lips don't move, sometimes it will randomly switch to conversations between characters with their in-game 3D models. That gets the point across, but it's a confusing inconsistency.
What the hell is this?
There's also an annoying glitch where the frame rate regularly chugs as the camera zooms out from a cinematic, which is odd for a game that isn't trying to be terribly ambitious with its graphics. Even though animations aren't always its strong suit, they successfully make this group feel like a team and bring energy to the turn-based action. One of Cape's best ideas is that your squad of 4 heroes work together to enhance each other's abilities when they're close enough together. It's not unlike the system in Marvel's Midnight Suns, but here it's much more based on position, and they work differently based on which 2 heroes are collaborating. Among many other team-ups, the speedster Mercurial can leave a trail of fire behind her as she zips from where Ignis is standing to the other side of the map. Weathervane's Lightning Storm is vastly more powerful with kinetic nearby to supercharge its damage, and Mindfire can telepathically make an enemy turn around so that Rebound can teleport in for a backstab and bonus damage. That makes the choice of which 4 team members to bring to a fight feel hugely important, so it doesn't cost you anything to restart the mission with a different squad if you find yourself in need of, say, damage mitigation from Facet's crystal armor. You also have to keep your team's position in mind. because if they stray more than a few tiles apart, they won't be able to take advantage of their team-up abilities.
Ignis, let's set him on fire!
Capes is very smart about layering on mechanics to think about beyond simply punching or zapping an enemy for as much damage as possible.
Almost there.
Some attacks do disarm damage, which don't necessarily reduce their health but can force a thug to drop a gun or a bat, or interrupt a more powerful enemy's super attack that they're charging at for next turn. On top of that, each hero has an ultimate ability, such as Nerdy Scientist Hyde transforming into a big stompy swarm of nanobots, but they all charge up differently. Facet charges as he absorbs damage while armored, Mindfire earns his by making an enemy vulnerable and then dealing damage, and Ignis slurps up fire around the map like Pac-Man. Because of that, swapping out a single member of your team can pretty radically change your priorities in clever ways. Once you get the hang of it and are reliably beating down bad guys, you can test your skills by attempting to complete each mission's list of optional objectives. In addition to completing the main objective without a hero being downed, you'll be challenged with pushing some number of enemies off ledges, disarming them, or using specific abilities, among other things. This is the main way you earn skill points to unlock your hero's powers, some of which are a minor half-point damage or range increase, but others unlock whole new extremely handy skills, so it's definitely worth revisiting missions in the simulator to mop them up, especially if you were that close to pulling off a perfect run. The one type of mission I have no desire to revisit are the stealth ones, which are often exercises in trial and error. While you can preview exactly where an enemy will patrol on their next turn, and tiles they can see currently are highlighted, their gaze sweeps over the map as they walk and turn, and it can be very tricky to figure out where you'll be safely hidden. That's no fun. But the saving grace is that the quick save button makes reloading painless, and several of the stealth missions are optional anyway.
So, have at it!
Cape's inventive take on superhero-flavored turn-based tactical combat gives you all the information you need to turn the tables on its villains. Watching the action figure-like characters combine their powers and supercharge their diverse ultimate abilities sells their teamwork well, and chasing optional objectives in each mission gives you a lot to think about to counter a wide range of tricky enemy types.
Take out the intruder!
Stealth missions don't work quite as well, but they're mostly optional. And the story, heroes, and villains are entertainingly written throughout the substantial campaign. For more, check out our reviews of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and Homeworld 3. And for everything else, stick with IGN.